these two are factoring problems, which means we need to figure out the expression given equals what times what. Same thing here, what times what. So we need to break this down as something times something. Now, we have learned 4 types of factoring. First type is GCF, and then we have, if we have 2 terms, we try to do difference of 2 squares. If we have 3 terms, we try to do trinomial, and if we have 4 terms, we can try grouping. So we need to remember these 4 different types, and that's what we're going to apply to these 2 problems. So the first step, we always check GCF. And when we look at x squared minus 7x plus 6, they don't have anything in common because the last term doesn't have an x, and the first term doesn't have any factor except 1. So we can go ahead to look at the next 3 types. And for the next 3 types, it's very easy to determine. If we have 2 terms, we can check whether it's a difference of 2 squares. If we have 3 terms, we can check whether it is a trinomial. If we have 4 terms, we can check whether it is grouping. So as we have 1, 2, 3 terms here, so we have 1, 2, 3 terms, so that we can try trinomial. And in fact, this is a trinomial. So to factor trinomial, one of the ways is to draw a 2 by 2 box. And first we break down x squared, that's x times x. And then we break down 6. Now notice we have 2 ways to break down 6, 1, 6 or 2, 3. But notice these numbers will add up to, these 2 numbers will add up to 7, which is opposite of -7. So that means I have to flip the sign from +1, +6 to -1 times -6, because -1 times -6 is also +6. 2 negatives make a positive. So usually we start with the positive numbers, but if they don't work, and you can change them to negatives. Now let's check the diagonals. So when we look at the cross multiplies, we have -6x, and then the other diagonal, we have -1x. When we combine them, we have -7x, which is exactly what we need for the middle term. So now we can write down our answer horizontally. So this is our first factor, x minus 1. This is our second factor, x minus 6. So in one of the previous videos, I went over the detailed steps and explained why we could use a 2 by 2 box and to break down a trinomial. This is literally reversing a multiplication. All right, so now let's look at the second one. So in this case, first of all, if we look at all the numbers 4, 20, 3, and 15, they don't have anything in common. And if we look at all the variables, 3 copies, 2 copies, 1 copy, no copies. So we don't have A in common either. So when we look at all 4 of them together, they don't have anything in common. There's no GCF. So now we count how many terms. And 4a cubed, 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, and 4 terms. So the minuses and the pluses separate the terms. And if we have 4 terms, maybe it's grouping. So let's try grouping, see if it works. And so first I'm going to put the first 2 in the group, these 2 in the group. And notice they do have 4 and 20, they have 4 in common. A third and a squared, they have 2 copies of a, which is a squared in common. So I am going to factor out for a squared. And to do that, so first we take out we write down 4a squared, and then we divide each of them by 4a squared. And that's going to give us 4 cancels 4, a third divided by a squared, that's a. Subtract the exponents, 3 minus 2 is 1. 20 divided by 4 is 5, a squared cancels a squared. So we're going to get 4a squared times a minus 5. And for the second group, notice 3 and 15, they both have 3 in common. It's a positive 3. And then we take 3 out and reduce them. So we get a minus 5, because 15 divided by 3 is 5. And 3 cancels 3, so we only have a to bring down. And when we look at this step, they both have a minus 5, and we can take that out. And since we cannot stop here because our answer needs to be something times something. But right now we have something, something plus something. So it's not going to work. But if we do one more step of GCF, and we can pull out a minus 5 as one of our factors and get rid of them, and we're left with 4a squared and plus 3. So that is the answer.